All right, welcome back to the first episode of the New Strength Way podcast for 2020. I'm here with a longtime friend, he's been a coach of mine at different points in time, Dan Malmberg.
What's up?
We first met back in 2011, first year of sports science at Newcastle Uni, which was
it's a long time ago.
Ago now. We're way older. I'd like to think that we're way more muscular and better looking.
We're much skinnier back then.
We definitely were.
I was just baby giraffe then.
Baby Ironberg. Cool. So I wanted to bring you in because one, obviously it's a good chance for us to catch up and hang out. That's the main priority here. And then two, just to share a little bit of your story. You've gone through, as you said, started off quite skinny giraffe. You were a tennis player at the time, I think, if I remember correctly. And then
I was very much in limbo there, where I just had no idea what I was doing with my life, really.
Yeah. So you started a sports
doing
science degree.
shit.
That's pretty much that's the story for most people, I think.
Yeah.
So what we'll do is basically start off, Dan, if you want to tell everyone a little bit about yourself and your backstory of getting into training, and then we'll go from there.
Sweet. Can I swear in this?
Yeah. Just don't be dropping like excessive C-bombs on my call.
Alright, cool. Just F-bombs is alright occasionally?
Yeah, like a subtle one here and there.
Alright, cool. So, how do we start that story? Why I started sports science? Well, I used to be a tennis player, mostly because my dad made me, and I was not too terrible at it, so it got me out of doing school and playing tennis and that kind of jazz. It was a decent level of that. I managed to get out of school how old was I? Like 16 years old. I'd be able to do homeschooling, and that's all my mates take the piss out of me being homeschooled, so yeah, who cares? That's another tangent. Yeah. But did that, playing tennis, training at the state squad in Homebush for a few years, and hopefully
Did you play any of the guys that are now playing on like the...
I was basically, not at the top level. A few of the guys who in the 100 to 500 I competed against, and I was like a whipping boy on a few occasions for Bernard Tomic.
Yeah, right, yeah.
But I wasn't that high level as this. There was just like someone he has on rotation.
Is there a memorable moment of like a time that you got a good point against him that you like tell people about? Like if you're watching the tennis?
No, only when it came to fitness things. Not in the hitting tennis ball thing. That was the main thing I was actually good at in tennis.
Yeah.
When we were training, I was just good at fitness.
Cool.
I was good at suffering better than the other people, but I fucking hated the actual playing the tennis part and chasing the yellow ball around.
Yeah, that's understandable. I'm pretty terrible at that game.
Yeah, and then
too much skill and not enough.
I had the worst temper. I was basically John McEnroe or Dan. Had the worst temper. I broke so many rackets. And mostly I think it was just frustration because it was just so skinny.
Yeah.
So that was probably a third of the reason why I started doing sports science.
Yeah.
Trying to figure out how to I really just want to get bigger and stronger, and I spent 3 years between tennis and uni just being a lost soul, and I was just doing dumb shit like at Planet Fitness or Fitness First and doing things trying to figure out how to actually put some muscle.
Yeah, and that was an interesting time at that point there as well that I reference a lot of the time with a lot of young people that are getting into training now is like we didn't have the, whether it be the men's health, like those sort of things have improved a lot in terms of the information and that sort of thing they're putting out now versus at that time when we were there. We didn't have there wasn't a gym on every corner that has somebody who actually understands strength and conditioning and getting strong, building muscle. It was like you just went to the gym and you did what other people were doing, and hopefully you found somebody who actually knew what they were doing and they would actually teach you. But
you just look for the most jacked looking dude and you just kind of copy him.
Yeah, it was like find what somebody else is doing in the gym and just do that.
Yeah.
But
there was no understanding of progressive overload or actually how to eat or anything like that.
Yeah, so let's get on to like that point in time and like how things have changed for you. Like obviously you started training at Body M with Jace Hayward doing some CrossFit style stuff, but then I remember for you, you kind of started to pivot away from like doing the traditional workouts that they were doing there and started doing your own strength training on the outside of that. And I think that was the point where you started to really put on size, strength, quite quickly. So what was the thing that pivoted you, well, first got you into that scene of following the CrossFit stuff, and then pivoting away and finding your own sort of space on the edge there?
So that was a really good balance. Is when I started CrossFit, I actually started learning how to train properly. It was the same time we started uni together.
Yeah.
So we got the good parallel going there at the same time, where you learn critical thinking skills when you're at uni. You spend time studying and learning how to question things. And then at the same time was learning actually how to train and coach people. Well, I was just a client for the first year and a bit, but then I started coaching at Body M. So it's just really a bit louder.
Yeah.
Sorry. So it's just the combination of putting the two together, really.
Yeah.
And then what happened? Oh yeah, you learned this thing while we're at uni, just like, oh, you can do structured progressive strength programs. And that was probably the biggest change, is following a simple, did Wendler 5-3-1.
Yeah.
Didn't know anything about nutrition then, so it's like, oh, what did the strong people do? And then Wendler also talked, was it Wendler? Or someone was talking about GOMAD. And then
What's that?
gallon of milk.
Yeah. Wendler was big on that, yeah.
Yeah, so started doing Wendler. It was me and a mate who I trained with, Sean Brickwood. And we just trained together, started doing Wendler and just started doing GOMAD, and then got a lot bigger and stronger.
Yeah. Yeah, in a very, very short period of time too. I feel like it was like, went from skinny Dan to Jack Dan pretty quickly.
Yeah, it was like 6 months.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I feel like that was like the joke. I was like the only person who, like, because I just wanted to get ripped, and doing CrossFit and doing and going paleo or whatever wasn't getting me ripped. I was just still kind of skinny fat, and I was not quite strong, and half the gym was still stronger than me. Because I actually showed up at the gym probably the weakest person there. All I could do was run and skip.
I do remember a couple of videos of your early days of like Olympic lifting as well. And really exaggerated how how skinny you were to then where you are right now. And I think I see them pop up every now and then. They get reshared.
I'm due for another re-sharing of an epic fail, me dropping a bar on my head too.
Yeah. Oh, we've all done that once. Yours look way worse than mine did, but I've done it at least once.
But in the end there, really, it's just learning. It's just at uni, learning the fundamentals of strength and conditioning, exercise science, and then applying that with some good elements of CrossFit put together. And that's how you just actually get good progress of learning actually how to work with some intent, because most people are lazy, and then learning actually how to apply to put a progressive program, having structure. So there is variety where you get in CrossFit, but it gets too random. And if you just do a back squat once every month, you don't get anywhere. Or you should be training simple strength patterns weekly.
Yeah, definitely. And there's I think something that we come back to a lot of the time is so routine is like the enemy, is something that's promoted within like a lot of different fitness spaces, but I think it was popularized within CrossFit as well. But what we commonly find in like progressive strength training is like routine is the recipe of success.
Yeah.
It's like you have to, if you need to get better at squatting, or just you need stronger legs for whatever that sport might be, then you probably need to squat consistently, like at least once a week, week in, week out, maybe 5 days a week if you really want to go Bulgarian model or something like that. I've done that before and it really hurt. I don't want to do it again. But things like having that consistency there and having that progressive routine is something that we found that's made a lot of a difference for both myself and then also the clients that we work with here, and just progressively learning a little bit more and knowing how to tinker with those systems there, I think makes a huge change. So let's jump from there into like, obviously you've gone from, like you said, you started to make that big change with yourself, you started to have a bit more of a progressive strength program, and then you then started transitioning into helping other people with that. You run your own business now with mainly online coaching predominantly, isn't it? Yeah, so what was it that inspired you to go into that space of like helping other people on that journey, not just following the path yourself?
The biggest thing, and that actually goes back to when I was competing and playing tennis, is the strength and conditioning. Back then it wasn't the greatest. It was like the old school mentality of just beating people up. We just did endless kilometers of running. And then a lot of people I trained with then they all needed like knee recos before they were 17, or shoulder stuff. Like I would say 50%, and I thought like, that's not right, is it? And then no one was really ever getting stronger. You're just kind of just running lots, and you weren't really getting anywhere. So that was one of the big motivations for me to get into exercise science and ultimately get into coaching. And then also the coaching thing, how I got in was first Jace at Body M hit me up to start coaching, and then eventually I started running the program, and it just became almost a little bit of a fun mad scientist thing, just to see like, oh, I can work around principles and manipulating different methods and variables to get people better. And it was like, really it's just the same thing of everyone's needs for, or people have needs for growth and contribution. And it's just very satisfying to get someone really big and strong, or someone repairing a broken athlete, which tends to happen sometimes in CrossFit if they do too much intensity to help fix broken CrossFitters or whatever the person's sport is, to get them back into performance. Just because I broke myself a lot of times in my journey, because I had minor tears in both my shoulders too.
Yeah, right. I didn't know that. I always remember that your shoulders were always beaten up, but I didn't know that you actually had like tears going on there.
Yeah, I was supraspinatus on both of them. I've got like partial tears from just doing too many butterfly pull-ups and dropping snatches on my head.
Yeah, that'll do it for sure. So, man, what would be, I guess, we've covered that progressive overload's a huge thing. You said getting people like stronger, bigger is like a big thing for you. What would be some bang for your buck tips that we would start off with, or how would you maybe approach that if somebody came to you and was like, hey, I want to get bigger, I want to get stronger? Where do you start with those guys?
If they're a total beginner, then, well, really it's everyone. You got to see how they move first, and it's simple as that. Like seeing how aware they are with how they move, the fundamental like primal movement patterns through like hinging, through squat and lunge, how they brace, seeing that first, and then it's just really following a really simple strength program in that sense.
What would be like maybe a go-to for somebody starting off in those ways?
Like a Wendler or
for
5-3-1.
people who don't know what that is?
It's just doing, basically it's a squat, it's a general powerlifting program where you're doing the basic fundamental movement patterns of a squat, a deadlift, a bench press and a press, and then you apply some extra movements there to cover the rest, like dumbbell rows and pull-ups to complement it, and you're just hitting normal movements, just hitting those movements weekly. Or a more simple one, probably be more appropriate, would be a 5x5.
Yeah.
And I would probably suggest that for most. You just do a 5x5 for your basic movement patterns, and you just hit that with probably each movement pattern I would do twice a week, really, just so you get frequency and just slowly build up over time. And that's probably the most simple one I can think of right now, yeah.
What about outside of the gym? I know that's a big thing. Like I follow a lot of your social media, as we do, and there is always like a lot of tips and that sort of thing that you provide for guys and girls that are what they're doing outside of the gym, of how it influences or how it can help with them there. What are some things with the guys wanting to get bigger, get stronger, that they might not be doing or might not take into account for a lot of the time?
Well, simple lifestyle stuff, getting enough sleep, like you hear this all the time, but sleeping, getting better with your nutrition, eating enough protein, but then a lot of it is as well just having clear goals and having a good mindset around it, and having patience and being consistent with all those things, and just doing just simple habits daily. Yeah,
I love that. That in itself, like repeating simple habits daily, I think is probably one of the most important things for success for whether it's in the gym, in your careers, in relationships, is just actively being there daily and present with it. I think there's a lot to be done with just acting on simplicity and just repeatedly doing that, rather than trying to look for the most complex thing.
Yeah, the real extreme things just they just sound sexy, but it's extremely unnecessary. Like maybe if you go fully carnivore or plant-based for whatever your goals, probably don't need to do that.
Yeah, right? That was one thing that we covered with, we spoke before the show, but Ellen Grandstrand, she's been on the show before, and was like, hey, like, yeah, sure, cutting out carbs might work for you to lose weight, but can you hold that? Can you maintain that?
Yeah.
do you have to even do that? Probably not. Like, so then it's like,
carbs
well,
are delicious.
Carbs are the best as well. Everyone that we have here always loves when they get told they get to eat carbs rather than getting them taken away. And obviously there's a time and a place for when you do need, like, it is appropriate, but I think it's used too much as the first option, not the last option.
People go nuclear way too quick when you just need to like just apply, a little bit of discipline and a small calorie deficit.
Yeah, for sure. Like there's the like some of the guys here that have seen myself or Annalise, one of our coaches that compete in strongman, of like the last week of our weight cut before a competition where we are just trying to manipulate water. They see that like then it is no carbs for a couple of days and they like no water for the last day sometimes and stuff like that to really get yourself right down. But that's like the last ditch effort to make the last kilo because you have a deadline, and then we're rehydrating, recarbing back up in those times afterwards. But those things shouldn't be your every week thing, they should be like the last thing that you do at the last possible chance to get yourself underweight for a certain thing. So let's talk about what about some more advanced guys that come to you. Like I've followed your programs in the past, and they're always a good mix of hitting that progressive overload, but then also having a bit of fun with it. It's always engaging programs and the design and the way that you go about it. What are some things that some of the more advanced guys that you work with, I know you work with a lot of tactical guys as well, but you use to keep people engaged in their training, but then also getting that consistency and the progressive overload? What are some tactics or methods that you might use for those guys?
So the program, because most of my program, like coaching program, is like individual design, so largely just, it depends on the athlete. But when you were doing doing my, I guess like my main base programming, it is really just combining just all the different methodologies there is out there, because people get themselves way too married into a certain thing. So there's like CrossFit, strongman, bodybuilding, whatever, what else, just pure gymnastics. People just get it's like the same thing with nutrition. It's like we could think about this flexible dieting, this flexible programming, but still apply it to basic principles. And then thinking about, it's always just going down to principles, and then thinking about like, as well, how I program, it's like, would I even do the training as well? Because I do test out a lot of things as well as, don't test out everything, because some of them are just psychos and they want to go through some depth, and they have much better handstand ability than me. But it's just basically thinking about the primal movement patterns, and then what's their objective, and then just working out from there.
Cool. Well, what would be one of the, you said that some people like going through a bit of death or going a little bit full on. What's something that you've chucked in there in the past that's been like one of those really painful ones that some people eat it up and with maybe a disclaimer of don't do this at home.
Don't do this. Oh, what is the worst? That was putting me on the spot.
Or a notably bad one.
There's a few CrossFit testers, like people just love that. The worst workout, just as a pure test of what people want to do, is a 5 rounds, 3 minutes of wall ball. It's a 3-minute AMRAP, so you do 30, I've done this as well. It's 30 wall balls into 15 burpee box jumps, and then time remaining max reps ring muscle up. And then you're in that time remaining just trying to get as many as you can, and then from there you have you have a 3-minute rest, and you repeat that for 5 cycles.
That's
and then
unnecessary.
But it's good for the repeatability for a CrossFit performance and doing that high level gymnastics under fatigue. That was back in the day more in Body M, when we had a whole pack of just animals that try to just get after it. These days, more recently, like I have one of the tactical guys messaging me. He just wants to go dive for 3 months and then go do a 20 rep max, the 20 rep squat cycle. And hit that like twice a week. And every time I've done that, I feel like I taste blood in my mouth. So that one's quite brutal, but it's much more enjoyable than the CrossFit conditioning.
The last time I did a 20 rep max squat, I think I was only about 130, which is still up there. But I've seen guys doing it at 200. I'm just like, this is ridiculous.
God.
But I was counting my way through, and I got to where I thought I was at 18, but I was like, I don't know, Nath, how many am I up to?
Yeah.
Nath turns around and goes, oh, you got 5 more.
Yeah.
And he hadn't been counting either. He was just watching and going, he's got to be done soon. So I did the 5 more, put it down, looked back at the video, and I was like, you made me do 23.
Yeah.
So he completely stitched it up. he stands by that it was, he didn't want to tell me that I'd done, get it wrong and be too little rather than too much, because he's like, if you'd done 19,
you get a better stimulus that way too. Like, most of the time people just, that's like the biggest thing I've been learning a lot more recently is just testing out doing AMRAP sets for the last set, for like even just doing simple strength things, like if they're doing like 5 sets of 6, and they think they're working hard for the first 5 sets, and the last set, I did this with myself. I was doing sets of 6, and I thought they were hard. I was like, they're hard reps. It was 140 kilos for a back squat, and then I would just go, oh fuck it, I'll just send it for the last round and see how I get, and then I get 15. I was like, I wasn't even trying.
Yeah.
So there's I feel like the only set where there was actually some real development was that last set, is actually learning to pushing there. Work with a bit of intensity, because most people, that's probably another big thing with actually making progress. And you see people at like local Globo gym, and they're just doing like free sets of 10 bench press at 60 kilos for 3 years and wonder why they don't have a chest.
Yeah.
It's just they never actually push themselves.
Yeah, for sure. And that's a big thing is, and part of that is not having an idea on how to progressively overload something so they can push themselves. Nor is there a concept of pulling back when they need to either. So it's kind of stuck in this middle ground where they're not pushing forward enough for somewhat fear of, I don't want to overtrain. Like that's, I've heard that's bad for you, so I'm not going to push too hard because I don't want to go too hard at it and gas myself out. It's like, you need to actually push yourself hard enough to get somewhere fast.
Yeah.
But yeah, let's quickly cover some of the nutrition things that you see that have helped in the past for guys trying to put on size. Obviously, your gallon of milk a day does wonders.
I wouldn't necessarily recommend it, because my face looked like the moon. It was crated up with ridiculous acne from the GoMad, and then it was not the best. I would not recommend it unless you can really tolerate it well.
What would the current Dberg approach be if you were going back and say you had how old would you been when we met? 20-ish, somewhere around there?
When we met, 21.
Yeah, 21. So when you were starting that journey and you started on the, from the baby giraffe to like... If you had baby giraffe Dan here today and you were starting him off to get him jacked and strong, what would be the nutrition advice that you give him that might not be do the milk and then just
just hope for the best? Well, really, it's just learning. I follow very much that whole, that flexible dieting approach, or just understanding the principles of nutrition. So my biggest influences with nutrition is, say, Martin McDonald or Lane Norton, and it's just understanding the principles of, understanding the foundations of calories, like macronutrients, and really that's really from there. There's other things you can think of, but I don't really focus on that too much, like supplemental timing and all that. But it's just figuring out where I was then, and I'll just get myself to educate myself much earlier, and not fall into different traps or BS what pops around, like going, oh, you should just do GoMad, or someone else goes, oh, you should do paleo, or you should do whatever. Just understand it. So understand the principles in implementing calorie surplus, getting enough protein, and just do that consistently over time, and then just doing basic checks, because what you measure is what you can manage. So check how my weight's going, doing progress, do a skin fold, and doing something simple like that, and do it consistently. So it's not anything particularly sexy, it's just applying a small surplus and building yourself up.
Cool. Is there anything that you would have changed going back on it now from what you did originally to this, or to your methods now?
How do you mean that?
Was there any mistakes that you were like, that was really not a good idea?
Oh, a really bad idea.
Yeah, that you followed, and it might have worked at the time, or it might...
Well, like, most things did kind of work to a degree, but what was a big classic error? Probably was mostly a training thing and just doing stupid volume of training. And I'll literally go to uni just falling asleep. And then combining that when I was trying to go paleo, because there was a 2-year period where you're trying to go like paleo, and I was just missing out on fun things like burgers and chippies, because I was like thinking, oh, it's paleo, you can't have bread, it's bad for you. So I was just based, in essence, you're going low carb, and then we're doing like double day CrossFit training, and you're doing some brutal workouts. Actually, this is a good brutal workout. What most people can do is a 20-minute EMOM, and this is always a tester I do clients to see if their conditioning is good. Is 20-minute on the minute, and do every odd minute 20 calorie row, and women do 15, and then 15 burpee on every even minute.
Yeah,
and do that for 20 minutes. And if you can survive that, it's an excellent test of mental grit. So you can do that, you are solid. But the first time I did that was just before uni, and I went to library and went to sleep for 5 hours.
I love it. Awesome, man.
But yes, doing the big mistake, sorry to actually answer your question there, not to send it every day and treat training like training and testing like testing.
Yeah.
Hard sends, like treating every day like a testing day is a great way to cook yourself.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that's the good thing of having that progressive training program that is balanced over the course of the week is you're probably going to have a couple of harder days a week. You're probably going to have a couple of easier days. Sometimes that might be as simple as like, it's hard within a strength training routine to make an upper body day as taxing as a lower body day, unless you're going to do like 5 hours of upper body day. Like, then it might get there, and your muscles will give out before your nervous system is actually cooked out on upper body for a lot of stuff.
Yeah, but it's okay. You can have a day which is easier. You don't need to go full ham every day if your long-term goal is actually to get better.
Yeah,
that's what I would say to a lot of younger people who have been doing CrossFit and are super keen these days. They just want to fucking send it all the time. And I just remember, and I talk to a lot of friends who I started with, it's like, I remember those days.
Yeah, it's pretty common amongst a lot of people, like super keen to get in shape, and they're like, I've got to go hard every day. And it's like, dude, there's nothing wrong with like one day of just going for a walk for an hour. Like low intensity cardio still has its place. It's probably not the best thing to get you results if that's all you're doing. But
I would say long term it is still.
Yeah, like but you probably add it to some strength training as well and that sort of thing. But it's probably like it's kind of frowned upon because it's not the sexy thing to do now. So sometimes probably having that balance, I think, is one of the things that I'd say that I would have looked back on. I probably would have had to go and do some more harder stuff as well, even. Because I kind of went on the other end. It's like cardio is going to ruin my
ruin your gains,
like ruin my strength gains, and now I do more of it than I used to. I still don't do a great deal, but it's still
you do like strongman cardio, so you feel like you can trick yourself there, but this is just accessory work.
Just less than a minute, and I'm good, and then just die on the ground for the next 15. Cool, man. This has been great having you on. I really appreciate you coming by, dropping off my new Ironberg singlet that we're repping right now. And if any of the guys want to follow your Instagram, or in social media to see what you're doing, you chuck a bunch of valuable content. What's the best place for them to find you?
So the best place to find me would be on Instagram. So it would be at Coach Berg, or Coach_Berg, or at Ironberg _ on my 2 accounts on Instagram. Otherwise, you can go on my website, ironbergperformance.com, and I'll have a bunch of articles and other kind of jazz there. You can join my email list.
Awesome. That's it. We'll catch you guys next time on the New Strength Way podcast.